Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Agroforestry in Action webinar series, a production of the Center for Agroforestry at the University of Missouri. My name is Gregory Ormsby Mori. I'm the Outreach, Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Center for Agroforestry. And this is our webinar series, Agroforestry in Action. Today's speaker, Uma Karki, is going to be talking with us and presenting about her work, Silvopasture, a presentation titled Silvopasture Research and Outreach in the Southeast. The presentation will run about 40 to 45 minutes, after which we'll have some time for question and answers. One can find, this presentation will be recorded, and one can see all past webinar presentations, all recordings of past webinars, through the webinar link on the centerforagroforestry.org website. So our speaker today, again, is Uma Karki. She is an associate professor and state extension livestock specialist at Tuskegee University in Alabama. Dr. Karki received her PhD from Auburn University in 2008, and her research was focused on southern pine silvopasture systems. Since joining Tuskegee University, she's initiated an agroforestry research and extension program, and in collaboration with other faculty and staff at Tuskegee University and throughout the 1890 Agroforestry Consortium of partners, she's engaged in quite an extensive program of agroforestry research, secured grants. She's conducted research and extension education programs, and developed several agroforestry research and demonstration sites. She's published many articles and produced training materials related to agroforestry systems, and has edited an agroforestry training handbook adapted for the Southeast, and as I mentioned, authored several journals and abstracts. And generally just promoted agroforestry and silvopasture systems, worked in extension and outreach quite widely throughout the region. She's currently serving as the vice chair of the 1890 Agroforestry Consortium. That's a consortium of several universities and schools throughout the Southeast working in agroforestry. And she is the president-elect of the Association for Temperate Agroforestry and chairs the Agroforester Newsletter Committee and edits the periodical, the Temperate Agroforester. So please join me in welcoming our speaker today, Dr. Uma Karki. Uma, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Well, thank you.
Do you hear me okay?
Yes, it's good. Go ahead and take it away. I'm going to go ahead and mute my microphone during your presentation, and I'll come back during the question and answer. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gregory, for a very nice introduction, and I thank you for this opportunity to share our work of the research and outreach work over here with other people through this webinar series. And let me begin my presentation. So I'll be just going through this outline, introduction, and then I'll talk about research basically relevant to the trees present in the research site, although we have done several other research, but because of the time constraint, I will not be able to present all of other, but that tree relevant to tree animal interaction would be interesting to many other people working in this area. That's why I chose this research to share today. And then I'll talk about outreach and the support we are getting for this work on the acknowledgements. So let me share our team and collaborator for doing the agroforestry research. This is the Tuskegee University team. Here we are 7 people in here, and these include animal scientists, foresters, economists, and soil scientists, and as well as the extension agents and specialists. So the collaborator for the agroforestry research right now is from Dr. Mentori from Alabama A&M University. he is establishing over there the alley cropping in the loblolly pine and then pecan tree to produce the vegetable crops. So he is right now serving as a chair for the 1890 Agroforestry Consortium. So why this silvopasture is a very silvopasture and as well as the agroforestry, the big aspect in this region. This is because it's forest use land in this region is the very big. As you can see in the slide, the southeast forest use land account for around 62%, and that is followed by northeast, delta region, and then Appalachian. So when we talk about Alabama, this forest industry is a very big industry, around $21 billion industry in here, basically timber production and processing, and 23 million acres of timberland, which is 69% of the total land area, and this state comes as a third state out of the nation having most timberland, and out of that 87% is owned by the non-industrial private landowners, which offers a lot of opportunity for the folks who are working in the agroforestry research and extension to help them learn how to manage their resources sustainably for their benefit. And out of this forestry, there are loblolly pine occupying 37% of this forest area, and then pine plantation accounts for 31%. So similarly, the longleaf pine, although it is not a big coverage at the current situation, but it is getting interested. People are getting interested into restoring this longleaf pine in this region, basically through the NRCS Longleaf Initiative Program. And this opportunity for silvopasture development occurs after the first and second thinning of this pine plantation, as well as the pine forest. So also the landowners can get support from NRCS and the cost share basis to establish silvopasture, which is also encouraging for the landowners to adopt the silvopasture system. So it will provide the diversified economic opportunity for the landowners, so such that they can earn some money from livestock and forage component in the short term, and then in the long run they can earn money from their timber sale. Also, when there are trees in the grazing system, it will provide a comfortable grazing environment for animals. So we are focusing on basically the small farmers and landowners, and most of them are having the goat and sheep. Those are what they are having, raising in their land. And basically all the goat producers are small scale and limited resource farmers anyway in Alabama. So that is, they have a limited grazing opportunity for their animals. One case study we have done a couple of years ago shows 10 acres of pasture for these goat farmers and 18 animal holding for those farmers. So it is a pretty small operation, but still they don't have enough grazing area to supply enough feed for their animals. So even the national data shows that sheep and goat farms, most of them are small scale. 75% of them are having less than 49 acres. So it shows not enough land for developing enough pasture for feeding their animals. So when doing the agroforestry or silvopasture system, it will provide expanded grazing opportunity for the livestock owners. So although it provides the expanded and extended grazing opportunity for goats, but the question remains whether it is safe to utilize goats into the silvopasture system containing southern pine. So based on that, we work around on this broad objective to evaluate the use of goats in the southern pine silvopasture systems. So let's look at the method. So these are two sites that where we work. This is the Tuskegee Site, where the Tuskegee University is located in Alabama, and this is Plantersville in Alabama, where there is a farmer who has planted loblolly pine there, which is around 18-19 years old trees. So this is a research area at the Tuskegee Site, and over here there are 3 1-acre plots which we use for growing cool season forages, and over here these are 3 plots, 1 acre each, which we use for growing the warm season forages for this research. So tree parameter at the Tuskegee Research Site, the trees, the longleaf pines and loblolly pines were there. Those were 11 years old when we began the grazing study. Tree density was 113 trees per acre, but it happens hectare. I would like to just correct, this is per acre. And the tree height 23 feet, and the diameter, tree diameter at the base height was loblolly pine was 5.1 inch and longleaf pine was 4.3 inch. So these were the cool season forages planted at the Tuskegee Site. There were 4 different legumes, 1 forbs, and 3 different grasses. So these were planted in separate strip within each plot, and then their quality and biomass was measured, as well as the animal preference were measured. So these are the warm season forages: bahia grass, crabgrass, sericea aspidija, brown top mallet. These are planted in the warm season plots. So after the forages were established very well, we began grazing studies with the Kiko wethers. Wethers are castrated males. At the time of when we began the study, they were 7 to 9 months old. Okay, this is the Plantersville Site tree parameter. He has a planted loblolly pine, and they were 18 years old at the beginning of the study, and tree density was 125 trees per acre, and height 49 feet, and DBH 10 inch. So animals, the farmer had boar and Kiko cross breed goats, and he had sometimes 35, sometimes a little bit more, so that animals range 35 to 50 throughout that study period. So facilities, he had a shelter for the animals, water, and minerals, and supplementary feeds and hay when needed. That means when there were not much forages available for grazing, animals were fed with hay and supplementary feed, and they were removed from those silvopasture plots. So in that farm, bahia grass was already planted when they planted those loblolly pines, and then during this study we also planted sericea aspidija, which is a leguminous warm season crops and also containing a good amount of tannin that is helpful to minimize the internal parasites in ruminants, especially the small ruminants, and crabgrass and brown top millet. So these three forages were planted in a couple of alleys in each plot to maximize the forage production and also to support with the gastrointestinal problems of his animals. So similar, goats rotationally stock in the plots in both cool season and warm season grazing period, and then animals were taken off when there was not much forage available in the silvopasture plots. So forage data we collected before we put the animals, so for biomass, and then for determining the quality, which included acid detergent fiber, crude protein, neutral detergent fiber, and lignin. So animals were data from animals were collected every 2 weeks throughout the study period, and that included their body weight, condition score, and FAMACHA score. FAMACHA means checking on their eyes using a FAMACHA card just to monitor their anemic condition, and this FAMACHA card is used to determine whether they have a lot of Haemonchus contortus, that is one of the gastrointestinal parasite very commonly available in the southeast, and that is number one killer of small ruminants. So those three data were collected from goats. So tree damage data we also collected. We were monitoring whether they would be inflicting any untoward effect on the trees. So when we see those kind of debarking, we also collected that data. So we measure from when the debarking began from the ground level to up to which height, outer bark as well as inner bark, and then the damage scale was classified into 3 categories. One is a little damage, which is just they may be debarking a little bit, but that wouldn't influence the performance and growth of the tree. Moderate, it may be a little bit affecting the performance of trees, but it will not be killed. It will not kill the tree. That is moderate. And then extreme means all the bark around the circumference of the tree at the significant height is removed, and that is eventually going to kill those tree. That's how it was, that damage scale was classified. So data were analyzed, that forage biomass data was analyzed using the mixed procedure, using that plot as a random factor, and then animal performance. We use the MANOVA using the multivariate analysis of variance, because the data we collected were correlated with one another. And then, but the daily gain we just analyzed using GLM procedure, but without ANOVA. And tree damage data were just the descriptive statistics were calculated for tree damage. So let's see what we found. So forage biomass for 2015 and 2016. This is the Tuskegee from the Tuskegee site, and we see this ryegrass and rye were produced very high in 2015 versus 2016. It is because we were able to begin the grazing study only in April. By the time those forages were very growing, and eventually this rye was actually maturing. So that was how this result was so different for these 2 years. Otherwise, other forages were not showing that much difference like these 2 forages did. But there were enough biomass, dry matter available for those animals there. for grazing. And this is the quality from Tuskegee Site, and we see they have a very good quality. You can see this the crude protein almost around 18-20%, even higher than that, and then you can see the TDN that was around 60% or higher, which is a pretty good quality for those weathers. And the daily weight gain data, this is at the very beginning, after they were transitioning from the feeding on their heads and then commercial feed to the grazing, and maybe that is the adjustment. They were having a little bit difficult time, so at the beginning they were losing some weight. After that they were gaining weight there, and in the 2016 they have very good daily gain over here, especially for during the cool season grazing period, and then during the warm season some of them lose weight, and then in 3 different measurement period they actually gain some weight. So debarking data over here, this is 2015 and this is 2016 data. So in the 2015 you can see there was a lot of trees, little bit damage on many trees in here, and these red column are for the longleaf pine, the green are for the loblolly pine. So in 2015 we didn't see any loblolly pine damage. In the 2016 they began to damage some loblolly pine also, but the most significant damage we found was on the longleaf pine, especially during the cool season grazing. During the warm season grazing there were only a couple of trees damaged, but not as significant as we saw during the cool season grazing time. So over here, this is you can see on the slide how significant was some of the trees were damaged. This is actually the extreme damage, the category 3 damage scale, and these are average outer bark damage. Those are initial height from the ground level. You can see the longleaf and loblolly and longleaf pine, and then this is the how high they reached on the tree trunk. So they reach up to almost 4 feet from their initial height. And then this is the outer bark damage height in okay, so these are just showing their extent, how high the bark were damaged in longleaf and loblolly. I think there are 2 different years, but I missed to write there. Anyway, so all the gourds didn't debark equally. Just a few gourds, there were leader gourds there, and they went ahead and debark. Other gourds sometimes came and then just debark, otherwise most of them were grazing. So here at the Plantersville site, there are no debarking occur there, because those trees were already 18 years old and these gourds didn't bother any trees there. But this site didn't contain any longleaf pine. So conclusion from this research, the silvopasture development provided a lot of grazing opportunity for the animals. This is the grazing was available starting from sometime January, February to until October, November, and the forages produced there were of very high quality. There were the legumes, grass, forbs, legume grass mixture, all produced very well, and they all were of very high quality to exceed the requirement of those animals used in this grazing system. and there were plenty of natural shade for animals. But the challenge with this research, especially in the younger southern pines, 10 to 11 years old longleaf and lovelolly pine, especially longleaf, those lots of trees were damaged. That is the challenge. So we are continuing more studies with other animals like Katahdin sheep. We are using right now, the study is ongoing, and also mixing these Kiko weathers with these Katahdin sheep, whether their behavior would change. And also to by keeping the gate open to the plot, so that whenever they want to get in and graze, and whenever they want to leave, they were allowed to leave. So those were in the initial studies. We are finding letting the gate open, those goats were not debarking, but we still see some debarking is still occurring with these Kiko weathers at the Tuskegee Site. Okay, with that, now I would like to begin with the outreach that we are doing in this region. So this is the Tuskegee University team, the similar team. We have one more expert added in here than in research. Dr. Diavade, he is an agriculture economist. He is involved in this outreach program, with this team. And then our 1890 Agroforestry Consortium partners are here. Alabama A&M University, we have two professors from there, Dr. Mentrudi and Dr. Christian. Dr. Mentrudi is actually agronomist. Dr. Christian is the forester. Joshua Edasi from North Carolina A&T, he is a forester there. Dr. Gwendolyn Boyd from Alcorn State University, she is a forester. And Dr. Ogenikome Onokfisha from Florida A&M University, he is a forester. And Dr. Susan Bambo from Federation of Southern Cooperatives. She did her PhD and postdoctoral studies in Silvopasture system. So this Silvopasture training program we initiated at Tuskegee University in 2010, and then it was just a Silvopasture component. So it continued from 10 to 2012 as a Silvopasture training program. The Tuskegee team developed some educational material and just conducted the training. And after that, in 2011-12, we came together with the 1890 Agroforestry Consortium, and then started doing this agroforestry outreach program. We did some grant. Basically, our initial grant was with the Southern Share that funded our PDB professional development grant, and with that we were able to develop this agroforestry training handbook targeting the county agent and field level educators. And these universities we involved in this endeavor is the same team that I mentioned earlier, with the 1890 partners from North Carolina A&T, Alabama A&M, Florida, and Alcorn State, also here, and Southern Cooperatives. And this is just a picture. They're doing the training session. So our training session basically involves the indoor training session, the half-day indoor training session, and then we do the lunch. And then after that, after lunch, the afternoon session is devoted to the outdoor session, going and doing the site tour and doing the hands-on activities, discussion, all that kind of thing. So during the share project period, we conducted 3 days agroforestry training program, basically inviting the educator and county agent and specialists from different partnering university as well as other university, and train those individuals in that 3 days duration. And after that, after the project ended, we are continuing with the 1 day. We're squeezing into the 1 day program, and that we select the important topics for that 1 day and do half a day indoor session and half a day outdoor session. So you can see the outdoor session that was in 2014, and all those are partners there, and then landowners, farmers, few landowners there, and then basically this was for the professionals that conducted then. So this is another glimpse you can see. Also involved with the shiitake mushroom production in the outdoor session. Dr. Rao is just demonstrating how to do that, inoculating the mushroom pond into the logs. And over here, Dr. Anak Pishe is showing how to trim the limbs of the pines. Over here, the honey production, that one cooperative farmer came and showed the participant how the bee keeping can be conducted with the along with this agroforestry system. If they have land, they can also incorporate bees and get some extra income. So this is the picture that was taken from the outdoor session conducted in North Carolina A&T. That is one session we conducted over there in 2015, and this is the site USDA NRCS is the National Technology Support Center in Greensboro. This picture is from a session that was conducted in Alabama A&M University. This group was a very big group. That was basically the medicinal grower group, and they were also incorporated into this agroforestry education. And Dr. Mentrady is there showing his this turmeric plantation over there in his research site. So this is a field day. This Plantersville site I was talking to you earlier for doing the research, and this site we are using for conducting field days there when there are warm season or cool season forages. Would like to invite landowners and farmers to show what they can do with their tree production system. In there also we invite NRCS people, and they explain to the landowners what are the facility they can apply for and all the process, what they have to do and how long it may take. All that the NRCS people will be describing about that. So this program outcome from doing all this, we see the farmers, landowners, professionals, students. Actually at the beginning of our program, several people we came across, we didn't realize they even know what the silvopasture is, what the agroforestry is, and now they are aware of this, what is this system and how they can be benefited by adopting this system. So they have increased the relevant skills, knowledge about silvopasture as well as other agroforestry practices. And because of coming and participating in this kind of program, visiting our site, discussing with the experts, few farmers have improved the existing silvopasture system they already have, and few other farmers have developed the silvopasture system, but the adoption is not very exciting. Just farmers just coming, one or two farmers going and getting interested and actually being able to start this system. But they show the interest, they enjoy it, visiting the site. And while talking to, in our post survey, while communicating with them, many of them mentioned that they are planning to develop silvopasture system, and when they are going to thin their plantation. So this is the acknowledgement. We got a lot of support from this funding agency. So our silvopasture work, our agroforestry work began with the support of Southern Share. From there, we developed that training handbook and conducted those training for the professionals as well as the landowners. And then capacity building, we have one that supported us for the around grazing system, including the silvopasture system. And the AFRI grant we received from in 2015 application cycle. So that is now we are doing the further research to find out more avenues for sustainable agroforestry system. And partial support available for this kind of work from McIntyre Stenish Forestry Research Funds and Extension Funds, and our farm staff helping us to develop the site and manage the site, improve the site, the planting different forages, doing all the cultivation work. And the cooperative farmers, I talked to you about the Plantersville site where we are doing some research as well as the outreach program is Mr. Benny Simmons. He is a very energetic man, although he is already about 81 years old. So our team are very thankful with this all the support. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation and open the floor for any questions. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Uma. Thank you for that presentation. We do have some time for some questions and discussion. I'm going to open up a dialog box so our participants can enter in any questions that they might have. And those attending, if you notice at the bottom of this dialog box here, or this question and answer box here, there's a little dialog box that you could type in your questions. And so while we're waiting for some of those questions to come in, Uma, I'd like to present a question here. And I'm really curious to know more about the duration of the grazing periods, and if there was any information on the duration, either the average grazing period or the range of duration of grazing periods. And was there any set grazing period, or was it determined by, say, management decisions on forage availability? And if there was any measurement or observation of any relationship between duration of the grazing period and the level of debarking?
Okay, very interesting question. The grazing period was determined based on the forage availability. We are just monitoring, going there every day, looking at how much forage available there. So when the forages are not much there, our target was 50% removal. And when 50% or a little bit more removed, we moved the gourds from one plot to the next. And for the cool season forages, in 2016 we could begin the grazing also in the 2017, but I didn't present 2017 in this presentation. In January, actually, January to mid-April or so. And then the warm season, by that time warm season forages get ready, and then they were shifted to warm season, and then warm season stays until maybe about August or September, halfway September, or things like that. And in this grazing system, we also have the woodland that I didn't discuss about woodland, but in the research site I showed you for the Tuskegee there are 7 plots actually for woodland grazing, and in between the cool season and warm season grazing period, if there are not much forage available by the time we finish grazing the cool season plots, we would start grazing the woodland. And then when the warm season plots are ready, we brought the animals for the warm season plots. So that is also how many animals we use. If we have just enough animal for the forages available in that plot, it works out very well. But with that 28 fast growing kiko weathers at the very beginning at the 2015, those forages were not enough. So we used them quite a bit in the woodland system. So that is, I think, one of the questions. Did you have a more? Oh, and you asked about any relation with the how long you graze with the debarking, right? Grazing duration versus debarking. So actually, I don't see that. These goats, they can start debarking from the very first day once they are experienced. In 2015, they didn't debark for 2 weeks or so when you put them in the grazing plots at the beginning. But after that, once they experience what these trees are, now they just can debark from the very first day. Those experience one.
Flesh out or understand if there was, based on the experiences here, if there's any kind of management interventions or approaches that could be done that would, say, avoid or minimize the debarking. Because I guess from a presentation, I'm understanding that the highest debarking occurred in the cool season forages and with the longleaf pine, and also I think with a certain one of the specific types of goats. So I mean that would be something to explore in the future. Is whether there's what kind of systems we design or what kind of management approaches to avoid or minimize the debarking.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of things we have to do. This is just a small study only with the kiko weathers. We haven't done anything with other breeds of goat or even females. We haven't tried, but we are now working with the Katahdin rams. So those didn't even touch those trees. They didn't. Right. Yeah. So maybe the animal sheep may be better when the trees are younger. So other studies, there's a lot more that to investigate about the management, making a good management decision to support the landowners, what type of animals they can put and when and how. So our studies this time with the gate open, these goats didn't bother much with the trees. They went into the plots, they grazed and came out. So we didn't see any debarking with that kind of management option.
In this study, that more on the design side, choosing the right species, but the tree and the breed may have the most impact on avoiding debarking damage, and not only sort of management activities. Well, let's see. I see one question has come in, Uma, from Blair English. Participants who are still with us, if you have any questions, do go ahead and write some questions in the dialogue box and the Q&A box here, or if for some reason that's not working for you, you can always try to, whoops, let me bring that back there. I think, let's see, our Q&A. Well, see, our Q&A box has just disappeared on us. Sorry about that. Let me try to bring it back up. Well, in the meantime, until I can fix that Q&A box, if participants would just go ahead and write any questions here in the chat box, and I'll see about bringing that Q&A box back. Blair, we may have lost your question. Oh, there it is. There we go. There's Blair's question. Yeah.
There is. So the question is, given the amount of bark removal damage the goats inflicted on the pine trees, what are the rate of tree mortality? So that mortality, I think we lost around 90 trees in those 2 years of grazing. That longleaf pine, and then 10-15 trees, not even 15, I think around 10 trees for the loblolly. So around close to 100 trees out of that 113 per acre means maybe what, 15%? I haven't calculated the mortality rate yet. Our study is just continuing from 2015 to until this grazing season. So, but until 2016 and 2015, we lost close to 100 trees in that 6-acre plots.
Okay. Well, if hoping our participants who are still with us might
So there is another question I see, Roja, from Roja. Have you tried or are you aware of similar experiment with other goat breed? We have differences among breeds on the type of damage. No, we haven't done with other breeds. That's what I was talking about earlier. This is the only breed we have tried. So our plan is to try with other breeds and also the sex of the different breed of goat, and then see whether other breeds would leave the tree alone or not. And while doing this, so the tree are maturing every year, so that is another variable we cannot control. So as they mature, maybe they will develop more resistance. We have to see. Is small, the damage is lower. So Rosa is mentioning usually if the mouth of the goat is small, the damage is lower. Maybe that is from her study. I don't know. They were the similar age of only 2 months difference, so mouth may not be that much of difference, but as I presented in my presentation, only a couple of goats were the leader goats and going and debarking most of the time. That we observed, but we didn't measure the mouth, the dimension of the mouth. So I see another question here from Ryan. What proportion of loblolly to longleaf were you working with? Were the goats actively seeking out the longleaf pine, or were there just many more of them? There's not many more of longleaf. That maybe longleaf was a little bit less than the loblolly. That is 1:0.9 or something at the beginning. Loblolly to longleaf. So it was not because of a lot of longleaf. They actually looking for longleaf. So Rosa is saying what it is from. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Given the amount of, okay, I think that's the earlier.
Right, so we have just the question
there.
from Blair English, we have the question from Rosa, and the question from Ryan. If there are no more questions, we do have some time, so by all means, those who are still with us, please share any comments or questions. We could also open up a discussion with some of the participants if you have on microphone. You can have a more open discussion. Uh, and we have a few more minutes. I guess from Ryan's question, I'm trying to think back, were there any, following his questions, you may have just addressed this, were there any differences in the access to either longleaf or loblolly in terms of density or extent, acreage, and the densities were similar per acre as was the overall acreage in loblolly and longleaf. Isn't that correct?
That was almost similar at the beginning. Now, with the damage in the cool season plots, now the longleaf are more than the loblolly are more than
so
the longleaf.
They had more access to loblolly, and there was still a preference, or there was still a higher damage than the longleaf, which indicates, would seem to reinforce the idea that there's a preference for the longleaf.
Yeah. Yep. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite article for newsletter, Agroforestry newsletter. So if anybody interested, please submit article. I think it is put out in the AFTA website, the announcement. Otherwise, I will email. I'm not sure how to reach all these. Maybe Gregory, right. I will send it to you, and then you can circulate to your contact.
The contact information for the participants, and so just to remind participants that today's presentation is recorded and will be uploaded onto the link on our website, so you can view this and all past webinars through our website. There's also a few participants today did submit some questions through the online portal that I could share with you also. And some are a bit outside the topic of your presentations, but I will share those with you. So I guess we're coming to a close here. So I want to thank you, Uma, for the presentation. I want to thank all the participants for being with us today. As Uma mentioned, please do send material or articles for the Temperate Agroforestry quarterly newsletter that Uma is the editor of, and that's produced by the Association for Temperate Agroforestry. Please find out more about AFTA if you're not a member at the aftaweb.org website of the Association for Temperate Agroforestry. And you see Uma's contact information is here on the final slide, her email address, so you can follow up with Uma with any questions or contributions at her email address there. So Uma, I think we'll wrap up things here. And again, once again, a big thank you to you for presenting today. And as I mentioned, thank you to all of our participants. And see you next time with the next month. We will have Kevin Woltz, a recent graduate of the University of Illinois, and he'll be presenting next installment in December. And you can find about all of our upcoming webinar presentations and past presentations at the webinar link on the Center for Agroforestry.org website. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.